Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling for Thursday, January 30th, 2020. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist that there has ever been. He's been my dentist for 26 years. He can be your dentist. All you have to do is call him, 317-849-2933. It's just that easy. The people very nice there, I'm telling you. So let's talk about college basketball. Last night, Indiana was not good. They get beat 64-49 at Penn State. Penn State, to that point in the season, before last night, they had lost one game in which they had not scored 70 points. That came against Yale. They beat Yale by a single point back when this season was young. Last night, they didn't get to 70, but somehow or another, Indiana offensively was even worse than Penn State was, scoring just those 49 points. The guard position. And I'm talking about the four guys. I'm talking about Franklin, Finney, Durham, and Green. They combined for 10 points. They shot 3 for 26. When you do that, you are not going to beat a lot of teams on the road in the Big Ten. Indiana, they were unable to do anything that would give you even a hope in the second half that they were going to remain in that game. The first half tied at 26, right, as the teams went to the locker room. But you knew, if you were watching, you knew that this game was not going to go Indiana's way. They were very, very fortunate to be tied at the half. And you knew that the second half, unless Indiana got its collective head out of its ass, they were going to have a tough time winning that game. And they did have a tough time winning that game. This happens in the Big Ten. Before we get all upset and we think that Indiana is careening out of control and hell-bent toward another disastrous season, look, this happens. We saw it happen to Michigan State against Purdue. You go on the road in the Big Ten, and it can be really, really tough. That's why you've got to win the games that you can. And if you don't do that, you're going to pay for it because you're going to lose games on the road. That game on Sunday against Maryland that Indiana could have had really in its pocket, up 6 with less than 90 seconds to play. Losing that game was huge for Indiana, because right now, instead of being 5-5 in the Big Ten, they'd be 6-4 with another win against a top 25 opponent. They've got Ohio State coming up this weekend. That, you know what? It's not a must-win game. You can still get to 10-10 in the Big Ten, and I think that gets you into the tournament if you're Indiana. But boy, they really could use a win on the road in Columbus against Chris Holtman's Buckeyes. Last night, the Indiana Pacers, how about Victor Oladipo, comes back last night just over a year after tearing his quad tendon. Very, very emotional. He comes back. He misses 6 3-point shots right out of the gate, all right? He was limited to 24 minutes last night. I think he played 21 or 22. Anyway, he misses his first 6 threes with 9 seconds left, and the Pacers down 3. Oladipo beyond the arc by about 5 feet, all right, on the left wing. Oladipo strokes a 3, buckets with 9 seconds left. That forces overtime. Indiana controls the overtime against the Chicago Bulls, and they win the game 115-106. Oladipo very emotional after the game, very happy after the game, helping his team. And, you know, it's tough. That's one of the tough things about going through rehab like he did for a year is that you're kind of away. You're segregated from the rest of your team. You're still a part of the team, but not really because you can't contribute to what they're doing. So Oladipo at home games has been a cheerleader. Last night, he got to put on the jersey, got to go on the floor, and if he doesn't hit that shot with 9 seconds left, he looks in the mirror and knows for a certainty that without him, his team would have been better off than with him. Of course, at the end of the season, they're going to be better off for having Victor Oladipo at near 100%. He wasn't 100% last night. He won't be 100% for a while, but he was good enough to make that 28-footer that forced overtime, and that place erupted. Bankers Life Fieldhouse was electric last night, and to see Vic succeed at the level he did after putting in the work for a year to come back from that torn quad tendon was really, really nice. Hey, you know what we're doing? Sports Nothing But Sports today? We're at Hinkle Fieldhouse on the campus of Butler University. We're in the top row on the west side of the arena, looking down at the court where Butler's going to take on Providence this Saturday at 2 o'clock. Cannot wait for that game. Butler, a 2-game winning streak. They beat Marquette, and and then they beat Georgetown on the road. Now they come back to play the Providence Friars, and Providence and Butler, they have a unique history. I love the rivalries that have developed in the Big East, this newly constituted Big East. Butler does not match up great historically against Providence. They've kind of got to play as hard as they possibly can and as disciplined as they possibly can to be able to win these games, and that's what Butler's going to have to do Saturday afternoon. I think that's the expectation always for Butler. Great effort, great execution, and we'll see how it goes. Either you hit shots or you don't. All right, speaking of good shooters, Jordan Tucker, what's your mindset when you're down 14 like you guys were on the road against Georgetown? How do you come back from that?
Coach just said stick to the plan, We knew why we were down. I think that was the biggest thing. We knew we had to limit turnovers. We knew they were scoring a lot of points on our turnovers, and once we limited that, we trusted our half-court defense, and we came back in the game, and also Sean hitting all those shots definitely helped.
You got Providence here coming up. The second time you play a team, is it more difficult because they know you better, or is it easier because you know them? What's that dynamic?
Yeah, it's definitely different. They know we're running, we know what they're running, So, I think it's pretty even. There's no disadvantage or advantage. It's just it's about the second time around. It's about more who wants it more. We got them the first time around, and I'm sure they're gonna come with a chip on their shoulder, but we already have a chip on our shoulder. So because we know they got us last year more than once, so I think we're gonna get it.
That win against Marquette, I know you guys are a one-game-at-a-time deal, right? It's about what's next. But does the momentum after a win like that, does that launch you toward better play, or does it matter?
I think it all plays a factor. It's all like a mindset thing, It definitely helped us get that rhythm back. We were down three games. We lost 3 games in a row, So, getting that one was big for us because we just want to get back on the road, get back to feeling like us again. And I think that game was a good start.
Do you look at the schedule and see you guys play for the next 5 here and think, oh, well, this is good, or are you just thinking about Providence?
Honestly, I don't even know who we play the next 5 here. I know that we have Providence on Saturday. I know we have Villanova next week. But beyond that, I have no clue. If you would ask me, I have no idea. We just kind of focus on the next game.
This might just be me, but Villanova here is always kind of a special game. It's always a really good test for both your teams, and it seems like the first team to blink winds up losing that game. In a game like that, is it just kind of a game, or is it the game?
I think it's this. In the past years, it's been that game. I know we got Villanova here at home those past few years, especially before I got here, and we lost them at home last year. So I definitely want to get a win here at home for our fans.
Who's a guy on this team that we don't talk a lot about or doesn't get a lot of talk, who is really important to what you guys do and how you do it?
Henry Badley, for sure. No question about it. He's a senior. He comes to practice every day and does what he's supposed to do. He leads us. You see, he wasn't getting that much playing time in the beginning of the season, all the way up until had some adversity, losing some players, and he stepped in like he was playing all season. Not complaining. He came in and did what he needed to do as far as playing hard, doing the intangibles, and that helps us. That helped us a lot. So,
how big a deal? Let me ask you about Kobe Bryant. Because Kobe's an interesting guy, and his death obviously tragic. What were your thoughts when you heard he had passed?
It was crazy. We found out right before practice, and it was a lot to take in at the time. And you're just thinking the whole time, wow, it's not. At first, I thought it was fake, and then you're like, it can't be real. And then once we had that night to digest it and see everything that was going on Sports Center and everything, you're just like, it's crazy. It was a big loss for not only the basketball world, but just the world, period. He was an icon off the court as well. You saw everything he was doing, especially with his daughter. You saw he won the Grammys about a year ago, and it was nuts, And that's coming from a LeBron fan. I wasn't always a Kobe fan growing up. I don't think I ever was a Kobe fan growing up. I was always a LeBron fan, but when he started doing the Black Mamba stuff, you kind of had to respect his mentality. I started to pay attention more, and as I got older, it was kind of I know why guys that are older than me were such a Kobe fan, because they respected his grit and his grind. And you got to respect that.
Why LeBron over Kobe for you?
That's just who I grew up watching. That was my era. That was my generation. Yeah. LeBron was that guy. Since I started paying attention to basketball. So I've always stuck with him. I've been loyal, but Kobe's definitely is definitely a legend. You got to respect it. He's definitely one of the best. I know they talk about Michael Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, but at this point, there's not even there's no point of debating it. You just got to appreciate it because, you never know when something's going to happen. All this debating, it's just too much now. There's no point of it.
That's Jordan Tucker. Again, Butler Bulldogs taking on Providence at Hinkle Fieldhouse right here, 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. And Purdue, they're going to be in Evanston this Saturday night, 9 o'clock. That game on the Big Ten Network. Purdue, they got to get a win because if they don't, they're going to fall to 4-7 in the Big Ten, 11-11 overall. And with the Big Ten being what it is this year, getting to the NCAA tournament is going to be really, really difficult for the Boilermakers. This, I don't know if we're at the point where we can call games must-wins, but I think this is a must-win for Purdue and Matt Painter if they want to get back to the NCAA tournament. Just last year, they went to the Elite Eight. They were very close to getting to the Final Four. Did not get it done this year to get into the NCAA tournament. I think that they've got to find a way to beat Northwestern. Again, Pacers, Knicks, 7 o'clock on Friday. Also Saturday, right here at Hinkle Fieldhouse, you've got Butler taking on Providence. That game at 2, and it'll be on Fox Sports 1. The first game of the day is going to be Indiana at Ohio State. That game on ESPN at noon. So these games have been staggered correctly, finally, so we get to watch all 4 of our favorite teams on the same day without stepping all over each other. Maybe we're going to have to postpone watching the first half of the Purdue game in order to accommodate the Pacers game, the conclusion of the Pacers game Saturday night. But you know what? That's fine by me. At noon, we lock in until about 4, and then once Butler beats Providence, we kind of take a meal break. And then at 7 o'clock, it's time for Pacers basketball. At 9 o'clock, time for the Purdue Boilermakers. Very, very nice Saturday of basketball viewing. And then on Sunday, we've got the Super Bowl. And I've got to tell you, I'd love to do some kind of Super Bowl preview, but I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know anything about this game. I haven't given 1 second of thought to the Super Bowl. And I don't know if you feel the same way. But with basketball being what it is, with Oladipo coming back last night, with Kobe Bryant perishing tragically this past Sunday in a helicopter accident, I just haven't had the bandwidth to accommodate any kind of, pregame foofara and examination of the 49ers and the Chiefs. And that's just the way it goes. Want to remind you, you want Super Bowl stuff, you can get that on the NFL Network. You can get it on ESPN. You can get it on Fox Sports 1. You can get it all over the place. You just can't get it here because, frankly, I don't care, and I talk about things I care about, and right now that's basketball in the state of Indiana. Tomorrow morning, we're going to do the same thing. Breakfast with Kent, 8 o'clock on Facebook Live, 8:15 on Periscope and Twitter. It's a show so nice, we do it twice. I want to remind you to pick up your copy of Oops. I'd get the audiobook if I were you. Get the audiobook. Go to Amazon.com, search Kent Sterling, and up will pop an option to get the audiobook of Oops. You can also get the hardcover of the book. I'd get the audiobook. It's 6 hours and 40 minutes of me telling stories that make me sound like a dumbass. What could be more entertaining or enlightening than that? Friends have and people who aren't friends. Frankly, I got a note from somebody today who I don't know, and they said this is very insightful. Thank you very much. I just finished it and I loved it. Good to hear stuff like that. Oops, available at Amazon.com, other places, but go to Amazon and search Kent Sterling, and there you go. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Join me.